Okay, so let's dive right in. We're seeing AI get smarter and smarter, but a really crucial question is popping up now, especially for things like education. What does it actually mean for AI to be correct?
Yeah, and there's this great piece in the Digital Times that really puts a spotlight on this. It's pushing us beyond just asking, how intelligent is it?
Right, pushing us towards how accurate is it?
Exactly. And it digs into the limitations of the big models we hear about all the time, the LLMs, the large language models, because they work on patterns, right? Finding statistical links in huge amounts of text.
Which means they can sometimes, well, stumble, logically or factually.
Precisely. They're amazing at predicting, say, the next word in a sentence. It's learned those patterns.
But predicting isn't the same as understanding, is it? Like really getting the meaning or how ideas connect.
That's the core issue. And the article, it actually points to a different approach, particularly for education. It's called Ontology Model-centered Generation, or OMG from CAFA.
OMG. Okay, so that's kind of our mission for this deep dive then, to unpack why just smart AI isn't maybe cutting it anymore.
Yeah, and to explore this OMG idea, see how it focuses on accuracy, on keeping experts in the loop, and making knowledge generation more adaptable, especially for something foundational like education.
Because it matters,
Yeah.
right? If you care about reliable info,
Mm.
about learning, this is relevant. It's about ensuring the knowledge is sound.
Absolutely. So the Digital Times article really hammers this home. The big shift isn't about processing power, it's about correctness.
We were all initially wowed by AI writing poems or code, but now the critical lens is zooming in on reliability.
And it comes back to how these LLMs are built. They're fundamentally probabilistic. They generate text based on what's statistically likely to follow, given the input and the data they were trained on.
So they can sound incredibly convincing.
Oh, completely.
Eh,
Masters of sounding plausible. But that plausibility might hide, errors in reasoning or just plain wrong facts, because their goal isn't truth, it's statistical coherence.
The article uses that term, probabilistic generation. It's like asking it to explain, I don't know, a historical event. It might pull together associated phrases and facts it's seen.
But maybe miss the crucial why or the sequence or get a key detail wrong just because that wasn't the strongest statistical connection in its training data.
It's prediction over comprehension.
That's a great way to put it. Like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle just by matching shapes you've seen before without actually seeing the picture on the box. You might fit some pieces, but the overall result could be nonsense.
Whereas this OMG idea is supposed to be different, more like understanding the pieces themselves.
Exactly. The idea is it understands the concepts of the pieces, and
Mhm.
crucially, how they logically connect to form an accurate whole picture.
Okay, and this distinction becomes really sharp when we look at education. The article gives this example question. Uh,
Yeah, what constitutes an appropriate assessment aligned with the fifth grade curriculum?
Seems straightforward enough on the surface, doesn't it?
It does, but this is where LLMs can really struggle, according to the article. There are a few reasons why. First, educational standards, like a curriculum, they're pretty abstract concepts,
And they change, right? They're not set in stone. They evolve based on new research, policy shifts.
constantly evolving. And that leads to the second problem. The sheer cost and time it would take to keep retraining these enormous LLMs every single time the curriculum gets updated.
It's impractical. Imagine the resources needed. You'd basically be retraining nonstop.
Totally unsustainable. And then there's a third really critical point the article raises: ownership and control.
Ah, right. Who's actually building and updating these educational AI models? If it's mostly big tech companies,
Then who decides what's appropriate? Whose perspective, whose data defines the standards the AI learns? That's a huge question.
yeah, you can see the potential pitfalls there. If you're using an AI to help design learning materials, but its grasp of the curriculum is maybe 6 months out of date or skewed by some corporate data set,
Yeah.
well, that's a problem.
A serious one for the quality and, frankly, the equity of education.
Okay, so this is the setup for bringing in CAFA's OMG, Ontology Model-centered Generation.
Mhm.
Let's break that down. Ontology model sounds heavy.
It can sound intimidating, yeah. But the core idea is actually pretty intuitive. Think of it like a highly structured, machine-readable map or blueprint for a specific field.
So for education, it would map out things like fifth grade maths, assessment types, learning objectives.
Exactly. And not just list them, but define them clearly and crucially define the relationships between them. How does this objective link to that assessment method? What prerequisites exist for this skill?
Almost like a detailed concept map that a computer can fully understand and work with.
Precisely. And the power of this, as the article points out, is you get explicit standards. Everything, the content goals, evaluation criteria is laid out clearly and verifiably.
Which gives you a level of clarity and accountability that's maybe harder to get with an LLM, where things can be a bit more opaque.
Much harder.
Yeah.
And another key difference the article highlights, who builds this map?
It says educational experts, right? People who actually know the field.
Yes, they design and maintain the ontology directly. So the knowledge base reflects deep human expertise, not just algorithmic pattern matching on potentially messy web data.
It feels significant. It puts the control back with the subject matter expert.
It does, and that leads to another advantage, sustainability and autonomy, because the knowledge is structured logically.
When something changes, like a curriculum update,
You don't need to retrain the whole giant model. You make targeted updates to the structure, to the relationships within the ontology. It's far more efficient and adaptable.
okay, so boiling it down, we have this fundamental split. LLMs, probabilistic generators,
Yeah.
making like super educated guesses based on data patterns.
Right. Whereas OMG aims to be a meaning and use-centered generator. It's built on this defined structure of concepts and relationships.
So the goal isn't just plausible text, it's accurate information,
Yeah.
grounded in that explicit structure.
Exactly. Information that's contextually right because it understands the domain's rules and connections.
And you can see why, for education, that difference is vital. The article really argues that accuracy and context aren't optional extras here.
Absolutely not. You can't have probabilistic guesswork underpinning how we teach kids or assess their understanding. The stakes are just too high.
This connects to what the article mentioned about the South Korean context too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The need for a system experts can actually control.
Yeah, in a rapidly changing educational landscape, having that structured knowledge system, one that's transparent and directly managed by education professionals, becomes almost essential. You need that expert oversight, that agility.
Which loops us back to those really big final questions the article poses. It's not just can AI do this, but
How correct are its outputs? And maybe even more critically, who owns, interprets, and is accountable for them?
these aren't just tech questions anymore. They're societal, ethical, especially as AI touches more and more critical parts of our lives,
And the article sort of positions OMG not just as a technical fix for accuracy,
but as a different philosophy.
kind of, yeah. A shift towards maybe democratizing knowledge creation, re-empowering the experts in specific fields, like educators, to define and manage the knowledge for their own domains.
It definitely makes you think. Who should be shaping the knowledge that informs something like education? Is it the algorithm trained on, well, everything?
Including its biases and errors? Or should it be the people who've spent their lives studying, teaching, and learning?
Yeah. So, wrapping up our deep dive on this digital times piece, the takeaway seems pretty clear. As AI gets smarter, the focus has to shift to correctness.
Especially in dynamic, crucial fields like education, the limitations of LLMs, their probabilistic nature, the updating challenge mean we really need to look at other ways.
And this Ontology Model-centered Generation, OMG, offers a compelling picture. Structured knowledge, expert control, adaptability.
It puts accuracy and reliability front and center, which feels right for education.
So it all circles back to those fundamental questions the article raised.
Yeah.
Correctness, yes, but also ownership, interpretation, accountability. Who's really in charge of the knowledge AI generates?
Exactly. Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe, for you listening. What happens long term if our core knowledge systems, education, healthcare, you name it, are built mainly on these probabilistic models?
Instead of, clearly defined expert-led structures, what role do you think human expertise should play as generative AI continues to evolve? Something to chew on.